Greetings. I want to talk a little bit about the concept of example. I'm sure you've heard, I'm sure you've seen, I'm sure you've experienced the way that someone's example will always be the greatest thing that they teach you. It might be good, it might be bad. It might be positive, it might be negative. You know, it's like sometimes our parents will tell us something and they'll do a different thing. They'll tell us to be kind and they'll be cruel. And we learn to be cruel. We don't learn to be kind. We learn that we're supposed to be kind. But we learned how to be cruel. So then we continue to live life and we continue to have this experience of shame because we're supposed to be kind, but we've learned to be cruel. We will always learn from people what their example says. It might be positive, it might be negative. There's a little hummingbird. Do you see him? Little friend. Yes! Beautiful. Nature's beautiful. Nature is so fascinating. Like, all the many different little nooks and crannies of species and behaviors and instincts. Like, not every animal's the same. Not even close. That's something I'm awakening to as of lately. I'm just like, whoa. You know? A hummingbird does something differently than a great whale. A great big blue whale does stuff. Beautiful. So anyway, you know, I say all that to say that example is very important. Example is the most profound way in which you will influence others. So now I want to bring it to the perspective of you as an example, of me as an example. We have the capacity to lead others according to our example. You know, it's human nature to see somebody being a certain way and to then feel safe and to feel validated in also being that way and also demonstrating that behavior or that way of being, that way of living. So at this time, we are really at a crossroads where, at least for, I think, many people, we are consciously becoming more aware. We collectively are growing in consciousness. We are understanding more the importance of kindness, the importance of gentleness, the importance of feeling our emotions and of holding space for ourselves in that and holding space for others. At the end of the day, you know, there's always narratives by some being, by one being or the other about, no, it's not really good to be kind, it's not really good to be loving, it's not really good to forgive, like, you know, it's like this voice that encourages hatred and encourages separateness among humanity. We hear a lot of voices, actually. We hear a lot of those voices. At least where I'm coming to you from, we hear a lot of these voices that encourage separateness and that encourage division and hatred. But any person who can see a little bit more into what things really are understands that love is a lot more efficient than hatred. So, in a world where many structures are crumbling in a world where we are a bit confused in certain ways, in certain aspects. In a world where men and women have largely been divided and unequal. In a world where certain land masses and peoples enjoy more luxury than others and more access to resource than others. You know, and I'll say too that, you know, in certain, like, for example, so in certain more wealthy countries, perhaps wealthy countries have less access to certain things that are more accessible to, you know, poor, I don't want to say that, like, just whatever we consider to be third world countries. There are resources that are less accessible to wealthy people than there are to poor people. So at this time, when we are at a crossroads and we are, you know, many things are crumbling, many things are coming into further formation, we get to choose what we do in this life. We get to choose the decisions we make. We get to choose the words that we choose to say. We get to choose, you know, what we do, like what we focus on for work. And I mean work, I say work because work is a natural part of life. I'm not saying, like, your 9-to-5 stupid, mundane job, okay? Some of those might be valuable. It's just up to you to understand what that is. You know, but I refer to work as a universal and ancient concept that sustains life, you know? Work comes in many different forms. You get to choose. You get to decide what you choose to do. So, your example is the most profound way you can influence people. If you set an example of being open, there are certain few that will be inspired by your example to be open, to be honest, to be integral, to be vulnerable, to feel. Your example is the most profound way that you influence people. So, I guess to just bring it together is, like, I invite you to observe yourself and to observe how you influence people. Observe within yourself the example that you're setting for other people. Observe what it is that, you know, how people react to it. When people see you, how do they then respond in their own lives and in their own beings? What are you teaching? Hello. What are you teaching? What are you inviting others to do by your example? Where are you leading people to? Yeah, it's really important. You're important. You are important. That's the message.